So hi, guys, welcome to class. Hi, Angeli, who is online with us today, and to everyone here.
Hello, teacher.
How are you?
I'm good, teacher. And you?
That's good. I like to hear that. I'm very well as well. So let's talk about what we've been doing in this class. In the past lesson, you remember we were talking about places, journeys, when we travel somewhere, when we go somewhere. And we don't want to just give an adjective and talk about it and describe it, but we want to compare it to another place. So we use our comparative adjectives and our superlative adjectives. And that means that I need to change the adjective when I want to compare one place, one city, one town, one village. Doesn't matter what it is. When I want to compare something to something else, okay, I'm comparing. I'm seeing how they're different, how they're the same. You know, what does this one have? Is this one bigger, smaller, brighter, nicer, cleaner? Something like that. It's adjectives that we need to change when we need to compare. Okay, so let's look at a bit of the rules and then we'll go and do some more practice. So if you remember, when I talk about one noun or one object, I just need to use the adjective and I put the adjective before the noun. So for example, the big house, the small cat, the tall building. Okay, so that's only when I talk about one place or at one noun. So the same, I could say, you know, the beautiful city or, you know, the nice park, or, you know, the great statue that's in my town. Okay, but I'm only talking about one thing. But if I want to compare, that means I'm going to look at one place to another place. Okay, and remember the adjective, we said that we add the er to it and then. So for example, it's like saying Adelaide is smaller than Sydney. It's like saying the park in the city is busier than the park next to my home. Or if it's a long adjective, remember those were words like beautiful, amazing, it was more beautiful than, you know, this classroom is more entertaining than my other classroom. It's saying words like that. Okay, so we need to put the word more and then the long adjective, and it's just long because they have a lot of words compared to the smaller adjective. But remember, there was a regular. If we said good, we need to say better. And if we say bad, we need to say worse. Like, for example, you know, Adelaide is better than my hometown. I don't know, Rio de Janeiro is worse than Sao Paulo, for example. But remember, we can also compare in the superlative. And that means when I compare to a lot of things, not just one place to another, but to many things. So it's like saying, you know, Australia is the greatest country in the world. Colombia is the busiest country in Latin America, or is something like that. Or a long adjective, we just say again the same words, beautiful, amazing. The park next to my home is the most amazing park in the whole of Adelaide, in the whole world. Or my city is the most beautiful city in all of South Australia, in all of Australia. And again, if we say good, we need to say best. This is the best place in the whole world. Or if we say bad, we need to say worst. This is the worst museum I have ever been to. Okay, so we're comparing it to many when we use the superlative, but we're comparing one place to another place. Okay, so you know comparing A to B or comparing A to many. So that's what we did. That's a recap of comparing. How do we compare? So if you look at now, we know how to compare when we go to a place, but how about how do we get to a place? So when we get to a place, we call it ways of traveling. And we say, okay, so now I know how to compare places, but now I want to say, how did I get somewhere? How did I go there? So we can say that we go by, let's look at some of these rules. So we can say that we go by, you can go by a bike somewhere, you can go by the train or the car. So we need to put this verb go by, okay? And remember, if it's in the past, how did you get to class? I went by car, I went by train, I went by bike. But in the present, I usually go to work by car. Tomorrow, I will go to work by car. Okay, so that's how I talk about how do I move from one place to another. I need to go by. But then you pick, did you take a car? Did you take the train or did you take the bike? But if I'm in the air, I need to say I travel by plane or boat. So I'm on page 84. Okay, so I travel by plane or boat. So I can say I usually travel by plane when I go on my holidays. Or next year, I will travel by boat when I go to New Zealand. Okay, so boat is by the water, plane is by the air. So again, if this is in the past, last year I traveled by plane to come to Australia. Or last year for my Caribbean cruise, I traveled by boat, right? In the Caribbean, you go by a boat from one island to another or the Bahamas. So you travel by boat. So that's how we can move from one place to another. We can also take a taxi. Okay, we can take a taxi, or now we know it's very common to take an Uber. So if you're out with your friends and you say it's getting very late, let's take a taxi to go home. Or you want to make a plan. What are you doing this Saturday? Let's go to the movies. Okay, we will take an Uber there. Okay, so when I need to say taxi or Uber, I need to use the verb take. Now remember, if it's in the past, you would say yesterday I took a taxi to the party. Last weekend, we took an Uber home. Okay, so that's some very common ways to talk about how do we move. Now let's look at this sentence. In number 1, I always something a taxi when I go out with my friends in the evening. So I always take. For question 1, I always take a taxi because I know I need to use this rule, this verb. So I always take a taxi when I go out with friends. Number 2, when my family goes on holiday, we always go by car. We always go by car. How did you something to Moscow? How did you travel to Moscow? By train or by plane? Now, as a question, you would say, how did you travel? You wouldn't say, how did you fly? How did you travel? Okay, how did you get there? How did you travel? That's always the way that you ask that question. Most people something bicycle in the city center on the weekends. Most people go by. Now you can also, we've got here bicycle. So we know go by bike, or another word is bicycle. They're the same words. When it's raining, I normally something work on the train. So we know we've got train. So I normally travel by. Now you can also use train here. We can also travel by train. And you can also, we didn't put this one, travel by bus. Okay, so remember I was asking you last lesson, you said you travel to bus to class. So you wouldn't say you go by bus or you take, actually you can take a bus. So we can put bus here as well. So you can see some of them, they work with the same verbs. Okay, but bus, in this example, with the train, sorry, when it's raining, I normally travel by. I normally travel, sorry, to work on the train. To, because it means you're going somewhere. So I normally travel to work by, so I normally travel to work on the train. And the last one, let's something the bus to the city center. Let's take. We know that with bus, we can say take. Let's take the bus. So we know for the superlative, I'll just go back to our notes. It says in number 5, what 3 letters do you add to short adjectives? So we're talking about the superlative when we're comparing one place or one thing to many. I need to add est to the adjective. So it's, sorry, to the short adjective, yes, est. So for example, it's the longest trip I've ever taken in my whole life. It's the biggest park I've ever seen. It's the nicest mall compared to many. Okay, so I add est to my adjective. Nicest, biggest, kindest. If someone is very nice, they're the kindest person in the whole world. Okay, you're comparing. What word comes before long adjectives? The most. The most beautiful. She's the most beautiful girl in the world. This is the most beautiful country in the world. This is the most amazing experience in my whole life. Okay, so you're using words like that. The most beautiful, amazing, the most perfect, the most kindest, the most tall, the most dangerous, yeah, the most dangerous experience, the most, yeah. Now, what words usually come before a superlative adjective? The. So in both of them, in the short and the long, we must say the. Because if you heard my examples, the most amazing, the most greatest person in the world. So the. Okay, if we have some words, so let's have a look at some words. Long, so if the adjective is long, I need to add er to say longer. Remember when we're comparing 2 places, this one is longer than this one. Or in the superlative, longest. This is the longest, whatever, road I've ever seen. She has the longest hair compared to everybody. If we have the adjective short, it becomes the shortest. He is the shortest man in the world. Fast, this is the fastest car in the world. Slow, this is the slowest car in the world. Now, this is just some examples. If I have the long adjective expensive, this is the most expensive house I've ever seen. That is the most expensive jewelry that I've bought. Difficult. This is the most difficult test compared to many. This is the most difficult work I've ever done. And if we want to say good, when we compare, this is the best trip in my whole life. This is the best experience in my whole life compared to many experiences. Okay, now we have a paragraph. So New Year is the most important. So let's write this together. So let's have a look at a bit of writing. So if I say, we're going to see how we're going to use our superlative. So New Year, which we know is an event, it's at the start of the year. So New Year is the most important holiday in China. That means compared to many holidays, New Year is the most important compared to many. And around 3.5 billion people leave the, now we've got to use the adjective big, but we want to compare it. So 3.5 billion people leave the biggest cities in China and travel home to their families. So it's the, now I want to use the word busy, the adjective busy, but I want to compare. I'm not just saying China is busy. I'm not talking about one place. So it's the busiest time of the year. That means compared to many other times of the year for transport. Many university students go by train. Okay, so we talked about traveling. They go by train. And it's also the, I want to say bad, but I want to compare. It is the worst time of the year for driving on the roads. Some people go by plane because it's the, I want to say fast, but I want to compare. So it's the fastest way to get home. If you want, you can repeat after me. But it's also the, I want to say expensive, but not just talking about one place. I want to compare. I want to compare the plane. So it is the most expensive because lots of tourists fly into the country. Flying to the country at New Year. They visit the most popular. Okay, so that's the superlative, the most popular places in China, such as the Great Wall. So you got to remember, whenever you're talking about the name of a place, you must put it in capital letter. So the greatest wall, with so many people traveling in China at this time. It's the largest human migration in the world. So let's have a look at our comparison word. This is the first one, the most important. That's a long adjective. The most important. The biggest. That's a short adjective, big. So all we need to do, we need to add the est, the biggest. The busiest. The worst. It's the worst time. Did I miss one? Which one? Yeah, the worst. The worst. Yes, thank you. The worst. Because worse is not the comparison. Yeah. So make sure, sorry, thank you. It's worst. The worst time. That was irregular. Remember, it breaks the rule. It comes from the word bad. It's bad. It's the worst. And the fastest, short adjective. Okay, fast is a short adjective. The most expensive, long adjective. And the most popular, long adjective. The largest, short adjective. Okay, so now you should be able to know what is a short adjective, what is a long adjective, and why we need to change the adjective when we compare. Let's look at another paragraph, number 8. I'm going to get you to listen to a conversation, and then we'll talk about it. So let's listen first to the conversation.
Track 70, Unit 7B.
I want to visit Ireland in July, but I only have 10 days. What are the best places to visit?
Well, Dublin is the most famous city in Ireland, and of course it's also the most popular with tourists.
But I don't want to see lots of other tourists. What's the most beautiful city?
In my opinion, it's Galway. The city is smaller than Dublin, but it's next to the sea, so there are great views.
How cold is it?
July is the hottest month, so it's okay.
What about transport? What's the best way to travel?
Buses are the cheapest, but I think a car is better than public transport when you are a tourist. With a car, you can stop and see lots of different places on the way.
Okay, so we had the answers. A conversation, it said, I want to visit Ireland in July, but I only have 10 days. What are the best places to visit? Well, Dublin is the most famous city in Ireland. And of course, it's the most popular. So when something is the most popular, that means many, many, many people like it. It's the most popular restaurant in town. It's the most popular film at the moment. It's the most popular, he's the most popular singer at the moment. Okay, so that means many, many people like it. So Dublin, the city in Ireland, is the most famous and the most popular with tourists. Sorry? Oh, she's trying to get in. Eloise? But I don't want to see lots of other tourists. What's the most beautiful city? So that means of all of them, which one is the most beautiful? In my opinion, it's Galway. The city is smaller. So we've got the ER. So now we use the comparative because we're only comparing two places. Galway is smaller than Dublin. So when I compare two places, I only need to add the ER to the short adjective. It is smaller. How cold is it? July is the hottest. Now I use the EST, the superlative, because I'm comparing it to many months. July is the hottest month of all of them. It's the hottest. If I was to compare two, I would say July is hotter than January. But I'm not using two. I'm saying July is the hottest compared to many other months, compared to January, February, March, April, May, June, whatever, all of the other ones. What about transport? What's the best way? So remember that comes from the word good, but I want to know compared to many, what's the best way? We're on number 8. Buses are the cheapest. So again, that means compared to many. Buses are the cheapest compared to train, compared to bicycle, compared to whatever. Buses are the cheapest. But I think a car is better. So that comes from the word good, but I'm comparing it. I'm saying a car is better than the bike, better than the bus, better than Uber, better than the train. So it's better. Yes, it means good, but I'm not saying about one noun, a car is good. I'm saying a car is better compared to many. So you have to say that word in your head, compared to many. So tell us about a country you know well, but we're going to use comparison. So only one country. Let's read some examples and see the comparative. So in my first example, Sebastian, this is Budapest. And Sebastian says, so remember, listen to the EST, to the comparative, to the superlative. Hi, everyone. Let's talk about Romania. Romania is the home of the movie Dracula. They have one of the largest hot water parks in Europe and is home to one of the narrowest streets in Europe. It has some of the most incredible castles in the world. Romania has the cheapest public transport and the largest Gothic church in Europe. In its capital, Bucharest, you can find the heaviest building in the world. So another example, this is Lisbon. And Shirley writes, hi everyone and welcome to Portugal. Portugal has some of the most stunning coastlines, a profoundly rich historical history, amazing wines, great flamenco music, and some of the most delicious seafood cuisine. Lisbon is the capital of Portugal and is also the most popular city among tourists. It is renowned for its blend of historic charm, vibrant culture, and breathtaking views. This makes it one of the most alluring cities in Portugal. And the last one, Venezuela, from Juanita. Juanita writes, "Hi guys, we are going to tell you about Venezuela. It has the highest rainfall in the world and is the cheapest country in Latin America. Venezuela has more oil reserves than any other countries. In the 60s, Venezuela was known as the happiest country in the world." And just one more from Brian. And Brian is writing about Hungary. The most famous city in Hungary is Budapest, which is known for its stunning architecture, history, and culture. Szombathely, not sure how to pronounce that, is the oldest city in Hungary. It was founded in 45 AD. One of the most beautiful places in Hungary is Lake Balaton, located 80 kilometers southeast of Budapest. Balaton Lake is known to be the largest lake in Europe. The best place to visit in Hungary is Győr, where you will find a few hundred buildings that are considered monuments. You can also walk through the charming old town. The month of January is the coldest month in the country. It can go as low as minus 1.6 degrees Celsius, while in July, the hottest month has an average of 21 degrees Celsius. Okay, so you can see that we were talking about just one place, but we were comparing it. What was the biggest city in that country? What's the, the most expensive place to visit? What's the most beautiful thing that you can see when you go there? So try and use comparative. I'll put up the rules so you can see it. We'll write and then we'll come back and read them. Okay, so we're going to read an article on Colombia. So the title is A Journey to Colombia's Cities. And you can repeat after me. Many visitors to Colombia spend time in Bogota, the country's capital city.
The country capital city.
But Colombia also has some other great cities.
Also has some other great cities.
Cartagena is a port on Colombia's coast.
The coast in Colombia.
Because the city is by the Caribbean Sea, the food here is a fantastic mix of seafood and tropical fruit. Also, Cartagena is one of the friendliest places in the world. Everyone has time for a chat, including waiters in restaurants, shop assistants, taxi drivers, or people walking in the streets. Medellin is best known for the sculpture Fernando Botero. He was born here, and you can see his huge sculptures of people and animals everywhere in the city. The Botero Plaza is in the center and has a lot of sculptures by him. You can also walk to other squares
to other square.
to see more. If you want to save time between places, take the cable car over the city. And in the afternoon, when the sun gets very hot, go inside the Museo de Antigua to see Botero's paintings. Cali is a place where people work hard, but they also know how to have a good time. The city is famous for its music and dancing, and there are lots of concerts and nightclubs. It's also the home of salsa in Colombia, and you can take courses with some of the best dancers in the world. The annual Festival of Pacific Music and the World Festival of Salsa are in August and September. So these are good months to visit. For a very different kind of Colombian city, take a 4-day trek to the lost city of Ciudad Perdida. You walk through rivers and jungle, and after 3 days, you finally climb up 1,241 steps. At the top, you find the stone walls of an ancient city over 1,000 years old, and an incredible view over the mountains. So we've got some vocab. A port means a type of city or place with ships and boats. So usually this place, a port, it is by the ocean, and you can have restaurants on there, lots of things. So it's called a port. It's a type of city or place that has ships and boats, maybe because, you know, they do a lot of fishing, or, you know, it's known to be an area where they live by the ocean. It's called a port. Now, a chat is an informal and friendly conversation. We say that we're having a chat. If you're talking to someone, you know, I'm having a chat with someone about something. I'm talking to my friend. I'm chatting to my friend about traveling. That's what a chat is. It's a very casual, you know, friendly conversation. A sculpture is someone who makes large objects, and it's either from metal or stone. So we saw in the reading before, Fernando Botero, he is a sculptor. This is his job. He makes objects from stone. And the objects are called sculptures. And a cable car, we know that this is a type of way when you go from the mountain down to the ground. It's called a cable car. And places with music and dance, that's in a concert. It's also in nightclubs. and usually now in bars as well. And a special place where you will see, you know, more for music and celebration. It happens usually every year. This is called a festival. So a festival, something big happens in the city. Everybody comes. There's lots of dancing and music, and it happens every year. It's a festival. And another word for very old is the word ancient. So let's have a look at some of these phrases, some words which uses the word time. So spend time, this is a verb. If I spend time with someone, that means that we are in the moment together. So a sentence is, on the weekend, we always spend time with family and friends. Okay, spend time. We're sharing the moment together. We are with each other. We're spending time together. Okay, that's what spending time means. If you have time for something, that means that you're giving your time, that you're not busy, you're going to give your time. So a sentence could be like, I woke up late, so I didn't have time for breakfast. That was a negative sentence. I didn't have time. It means I was very, very busy, so I couldn't have breakfast. I didn't have breakfast. Save time. So that means that you could do something to save time. You're not wasting time. The opposite word is to waste time. So you can say, I spend so much time on Facebook wasting time, or on Instagram. A sentence is, don't wait for the bus, save time by taking a taxi. So it's faster, save time. Did you have a good time? So this is an expression of English. We always ask someone, did you have a great time? Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun? That's what it means. Did you have a good time? Okay, we're gonna go to looking at some more of these words. So you can spend time. You can also spend money. You know, you could say, I spent so much money last Christmas buying gifts for everyone. So you can spend money. You could also say, spend years. I've spent so many years studying. That means that I've given so much time to studying. I spent many years studying. Other words would save. You could save time. You can save money. You must hear it all the time. Save your money. Be careful. Don't spend money. Save money. Save electricity. That means turn off the lights so you can save electricity. Save water. Don't leave the tap running. Save water. Save some food. You know, if you cook and maybe you want to save some food because tomorrow you want to take it for lunch. Save food. So if we can imagine which city that we read before, Cartagena, Medellin, Cali, and Ciudad Perdida, which would be your first choice? So here are some sentences. Ciudad Perdida is my first choice. Now I'm going to say why. Because I love being in nature. Cartagena is my first choice because I like being by the sea and tropical places. Medellin is my first choice because the sculptures amaze me. That means like I find them interesting. Ciudad is my first choice because I haven't seen this place yet. I haven't been there before. Cartagena is my first choice because I like to spend summer there on the beach, enjoying their tropical food. Cali is my first choice because I like the cultural music of Colombia and their cultural food. Cartagena is my first choice because it is next to the coast and I would like to see their infrastructure. So if you are to write about your town or city, let's see how you can try and use your adjectives to describe the place, maybe talk about transportation, or give us any detail that you like to give us about your town or your city. So here are some examples. We will go with Lewis. So Lewis says, I don't know how to pronounce this. Coro de Quevedo in Bogota, Colombia. This place is one of the most important icons in the history of Bogota. It is the meeting place between the pre-Hispanic past and the founding myths of the city. El Coro, as it is normally called, is one of the public spaces of greatest culture and tourist interest in La Candelaria, where we can find traditional Colombian drinks and food and hear its histories. It has a lot of history about the city of Bogota. Okay, Adriano. So we have, we're going to Brazil, where you are from, Eloise. So this is his city or his place. And he writes, São Bento do Sapuca is a lovely place for tourists in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Surrounded by beautiful mountains, it's perfect for people who want a peaceful and relaxing holiday. The old part of the town with its colorful houses is really cute, and the locals are super friendly. If you like hiking, there are great trails, especially the one to Pedra do Pau, where you can see amazing views. So, see you tomorrow. Bye. São Bento do Sapucaí is a mix of nature, adventure, and nice vibes, making it a great spot for tourists looking for a special and relaxing time. Jonathan, Medellin, Colombia is a very friendly city. It is popular for its big festival, the Flowers Fair. In August, many people travel there to be a part of and enjoy this festival. You can find music, performances, drinks, animation, and many fun activities. Also, you can go to many parties around the city all week. Franco from Santa Fe, Argentina. I lived in Santa Fe, Argentina. Santa Fe is a small city in the Argentinian region. It is surrounded by rivers and lagoons. It is the wettest city in the country. For that reason, Santa Fe is burning in summer and freezing in winter. Shirley says, I would like to introduce the city where I have lived for several years. Fenshan town in this city, Taiwan. There are many military bases and military academics here. Every weekend, you will see many soldiers on vacation, and there are many traditional snacks on the streets. The mountain town is famous for its delicious food. There are also many historical sites and ancient temples in the town. Many literary and art centers have also begun to be established in this town, adding a lot to the artistic flavor. Sebastian says, my hometown is Ciudad Bolivar, Antioquia in Colombia. It is a tourist and coffee-producing town. Ciudad Bolivar, Antioquia depends on the production and marketing of coffee beans, which are sold to different parts of the world. For this reason, we are visited by many coffee-loving foreigners. Edward says, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Itajaí is a port city in southeast Brazil. It's known for surf beaches like Praia Brava and Praia do Atalaia. At Jeremiah's Beach, the rock resembles a parrot's head. The 1955 Blessed Sacrament Church was built in Neo-Gothic and Romanesque styles. Okay, I'll go to Brian. Brian says, I was born in Bogota, Colombia. I feel that this city is focused on showing Colombia's history. This city is a good place for visiting museums because it has more than 40 museums. The Gold Museums, as seen in the picture above, is the most famous museum of them all. And Oscar writes, San Gil in Santander, state of Colombia, stands out for its historical and cultural charm, featuring well-preserved colonial architecture and a unique atmosphere. Moreover, San Gil is renowned for offering thrilling extreme sports, capitalizing on its mountain terrain and the canyon. Activities such as paragliding, rock climbing, and rafting can be done here. Okay, so we did a lot today with talking about our adjectives. You remember, we know how to say something is the greatest, this place is the most amazing place, the best place, the most expensive. So we used our superlative adjectives today. We also went to Colombia and we read about all these other places in Colombia. And next lesson, we're going to be talking about travel money. So when we travel, it's really important that we know how to speak about money, because sometimes we need to exchange money. We need to, you know, pay for something with a credit card or cash, or we need to know if we can use coins, or do we need cash? So we're going to be talking about money when we go traveling. And we're also going to write about a place. Okay, so we're going to write about a journey, a place where we went on a holiday. So we're going to say where we were, when was it, who was there with us, what happened. Okay, so lots of writing about journeys and places and going through a lot of grammar. Okay, so that's all next lesson. We'll do that next lesson.